in charge of the Campus Expert Program, so if you also have questions about that, I'm around as well. We'll go ahead and bring up our next virtual speaker here, and then we'll have an in-person speaker after that. Stay.
Hello. Hello. Am I visible already? Oh, okay. Let me just share my slide here. Yep. Hello. So I'm Usman Akinyemi, and we're talking about my journey as a student in open source, and like my core contributions, and like just my personal experience about doing open source, participating in Git. Yeah, let's start. Git, who am I? So I'm a final year student of computer science and artificial intelligence in Clarkshire University, India, and my journey so far have actually been shaped by a lot of participating in open source projects. So if you know systemd, I created a unit testing framework in systemd. If you know X5, I was working on creating some codifying the assembly instructions. And at Git, under our Trichy program, I added uname info to the Git HTTP user agent, and I just completed my Google Summer of Coding internship, where I actually built a medical imaging pipelines. So these are my open source journey so far. And I'm a fan of Linux. I love Linux, and also I love talking about Linux, and I enjoy working on system software developer tools. And as I already said, most of my journeys have been shaped by working on open source project and navigating open source world. So my first time of using Git was actually in an hackathon, in a hackathon where I was working with a friend. I didn't even know how to use it, so the friend had to help me to push all my code to GitHub. And later got to actually learn Git when I had to submit my assignment on GitHub through ALX software engineering program, which is a software engineering program for African students. So I don't know if how many of you probably if you're an open source contributor, how many of you can remember your first open source contribution and what it felt like? So coming to how I my open source journey, finding out about open source. I found out about open source in my first year, and the idea of open source actually resonated with me so fast. So what are the reasons that makes open source to resonate with me so fast? I think the first one is in my first year I learned a lot of programming language, C++, Python, Bash scripts. They all feel so theoretical. Maybe not theoretical. We have to write maybe some code to to reverse a linked list, all those sort of things. But I felt I need to apply my all whatever I'm learning in a practical setting. This concept actually useful. So open source provide that. Then also I also don't like working on projects just for just for fun sake. I want to work on a project for fun, but a real world software project that is actually making impact. And I also learned that while working on open source, you could actually get the opportunity to work with world class engineers, right? So that's also there. And also the opportunity for career growth, you learn a lot of things, you work on a lot of projects, and you gain experience. So those are the reasons that actually made open source to resonate with me, right? And my first open source project, first open source experience was kind of horrible sometimes, and whenever I remember it, I sort of get some, maybe goosebumps or something. It took me a month to actually compile my first open source project. For a whole month, I was just trying to compile the project, not even contribute to the project. And I sort of say I still remember those late evenings after coming back from classes, long classes. I'm there on my laptop compiling LLVM. It's actually hit up all my computer processes, and I just wait there and hope my computer stop getting stuck and stuff like that. Sometimes I have to shut it down, and start again from the beginning. So I remember those late nights. They were not that good. I think what kind of make open source so hard for me, like at the beginning, was that there was not really like a kind of a big community support at my college, like that does open source. It's like I'm on my own, right? So I also started with a very complex code base. And if you know LLVM, it's a sort of complex code base that a new beginner does not want to start with. And also in LLVM, there is not really a good first issue, like, as a beginner, what can you actually do? And there is a sort of sparse documentation on how things work, maybe a simple like documentation on how you can actually even compile LLVM. It's not like there is no like a centralized place for that. And also like it was my first time, so I don't really know how open source works. So I was so naive, I couldn't ask for help in the community. Maybe if I had asked for help, it will have solved my problem of trying to like compile LLVM. So I actually like later learned that, assuming if I had used like this particular command, and I kind of assigned the number of processors to like compile LLVM, that will have solved my issue. I will have been able to like compile the LLVM maybe in just a day. But like I didn't know about this command, so I had to like so like LLVM compilation was just eating up all my processor, yeah. So like so applying to our teacher and picking it, like how do I come about Git, like how do I come to like join and contribute to Git? So Outreach is basically a kind of project or organization that sort of connects students and open source beginners to like open source projects where they can actually contribute to. So like I applied to Outreach in August 2024, and I choose to like contribute to like Git and LibreOffice. So the reason why I choose like these two projects is that I use both of them daily. Because I run Linux, so I use LibreOffice for like my typing and all sorts, and I use Git for like my pushing my project. And I also like choose them because it's in C and C++, which I also know. So like I got selected for the two projects, and it's very like a very rare fit in Outreachy, and I choose to work on Git. And the reason why I choose to work on Git is that like Git contribution guideline is so very detailed. Like you have a guideline that actually says, okay, this is how you actually make your first contribution. Like I believe even if you don't know like about bash scripting or C, if you actually go through the Git contribution guideline, you can actually like make a contribution without knowing those particular language, like which Git is written in. So it has a very detailed contribution guideline, and also like a very clear mark beginner friendly issue, like what you can actually start with. And Git community, they're like very responsive. I've been to like some open source community where you actually probably have to beg the maintainer that please can you help me to review my issue, and for like weeks sometimes they don't even respond. My open source I did my outreach internship with Git, and this is basically what I worked on. I worked on adding uname info to like Git HTTP user agent. The idea is, if you look at this particular so this is the user agent string, and this happens like when there is an interaction between Git that is running on your local system and the one that's running on the server. Let's say like GitHub is a server and your local system is your computer. So there is a stage of a particular string called user agent string, and it is in this format. But like after working on my open source, after working on the project, so I basically like extend it from here to this particular format, right? And the reason is that it helps in OS specific debugging OS specific issues in Git, and also like for statistics purpose, right? It's like some of the other details which while working on this particular project is that we only added the OS name due to concerns. Like we wanted to add like a lot of other informations, maybe maybe the architecture, maybe some other informations, but like we just stick to just having like just the operating system name, right? So, and this is just like concerns from the community, and also like we sort of, instead of adding a new capability, so like we just like added it to like user agent capability, which is like this particular like string, instead of like creating a new capability to add it to. So we just append it to that, right? And so there was also like some issue with testing on Windows. So we sort of like just disable testing on Windows, but like that's perfect. Like you don't have to worry that it's going to break on Windows. Like perfectly, we ensure that. And I had to like work on different iterations, and like Git community also like you have to like do good work. So I have to work on good different iterations, and sometimes maybe I've worked on something and someone no, this is not like the right way. So that's that. And also like so some of the difficulties and learning which are along the line. So I think the first thing was actually like learning how to like contribute to Git? Like, how do you send patch to Git? Git, the irony is that Git does not use maybe GitHub or maybe GitLab or some other sort of way to review to send code and maybe all those things. But they use mailing lists where you sort of forward your patches, your changes, you send it through email to the mailing list. So that's like sort of weird to me. Like, so there was a learning curve, but like I was later able to pass that by actually like looking at the contribution guideline provided by Git. So we call it hacking Git page. And I think the biggest takeaway in my Git journey is actually like writing a very good commit message. If you look at this particular like picture, like in Git, you don't write. I think it's also in Linux kernel also. Like, you don't just write a particular like one line commit message. You have to write like, why do you have to do this? What are the problems that you face? What is the existing solution before? Like, it has to be detailed. And I think like after working with Git, when I work with other projects, I sort of use this particular format, and I really love it. It's also like helped me while trying to look at previous work on my own work at Git. So like I was able to like read through the commit messages and understand what has been done and what I like, and the rationality before why they have to do those things, right? So like how open source as I changed my life, along the line. So firstly, I was able to like connect like some academic concepts to real life, real world large scale software development. Like my Git project involved me to like understand to actually apply my computer networking concept. While working on RIX5, so I was able to like use my knowledge of RIX architecture in while working on RIX5, my project at RIX5. And also like I have I've gained so much of confidence contributing to like complex code base. I sort of believe that there is no really how complex a code base can be. My journey as in open source has sort of empower me to be able to like go to any code base and with help from the community make some contribution to the code base, right? And it's also like sort of improve my communication and collaboration skills, because in open source it's like communication. If you are going to like make any changes, you sort of have to like say the rationality behind the changes. So, and you also have to like have a very good sometimes it's not even about the code, like it's also like about how you like communicate your idea to the other community member. So that's one of the things I learned. And also like ability to learn new technologies. I think most of my open source journey, like apart from probably like knowing the basic programming language behind, maybe like knowing C, like sometimes I have to like learn new frameworks so fast to be able to like make contribution to the project. So I think I've gained the skills of learning new technology very easily. I've also worked on very meaningful and impactful projects. Like if anyone is out there is using Git, you probably have to like interact with some of the code which I've written in Git. So I think it's interesting concept. So career development, access to experts, like most of the people who review my code in Git, in Rigs, in systems, they're like experts from Fang company and from interesting companies. And also contributed back to my community, like in terms of open source. It's also contributing back, a way of contributing back to my community, and also sort of mentoring people to actually contribute to open source. So these are some of the features I took. This is my Google Summer of Code mentor. This is Kartik from GitLab. Is part of Git team, and this is my mentor. My Git mentor is also he works at GitLab, Christian Kuda, and he's also part of Git community. And this is me actually teaching people how to contribute to open source. So my advice for beginner who is trying to come into open source, I think pick a project that you love, maybe based on your skills, based on what you know, or based on what you're interested in. And these are sort of places where you can actually see a lot of open source, different open source organizations. So these are the links. And I think the other is you also have to go through the contribution guidelines, find beginner friendly issues. Most of these organizations, most of these open source organizations have reached well detailed contribution guidelines. Go through it and go through it and understand it. Then almost all the open source community has a community channel, right? So join the community channel. If you have any problem, ask them. Don't be shy. Then also follow up on your patches. If you send a PR or what you call patches in Linux kernel and Git community, ensure that you follow up on it until you are able to get it merged, and keep working on meaningful and impactful problems, right? So like if you want to like get started with Git, this is like the link to like Git contribution guideline, and it is well detailed. And also like my sort of advice for open source maintainers is that write a very detailed like compilation and build docs, like how can people build your project. It's very helpful. Like maybe if I've seen a well detailed compilation guideline, I wouldn't have used like 1 month trying to like build a LLVM project, right? So, and also like respond to patches, like it really like encourage contributors. You might also think that maybe you are putting some time, but like at the side of from the point of view of a contributor, to like imagine someone like me who had to like come back from class, had to like dedicate a lot of time to open source contribution. It's also like kind of mean a lot to me. So try and respond to patches, and also like encourage asking questions, right? It's really help a lot. And mentorship matters. I believe there will be a time when maybe the people who are currently like, because in open source, like you see like a lot of old people there, right? So there will be a time where we need to like have young contributors also, like mentoring them now. We sort of ensure that we ensure the project future. So like Git commit, thank you everyone for listening to my talk. Thanks to the Git contributors for the opportunity to intern with Git. Thanks to my mentor Junior Amano, the Git maintainer Taylor Blau, Patrick. Thanks to my friend for also like formatting the slide for me. Thank you everyone. So, and you can connect with me online. So Usman Akem, yeah. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent. Up next we have Lita Cho. Come on up, plug your laptop in, and we'll keep going. I believe we have a break coming up in a few talks, so